Hello and welcome to Tales from the Tabletop, where I'll be talking about bits and pieces that happened in my current Ars Magica campaign and general roleplay type stuff altogether. Didn't get a session last week, mostly because the stress of the whole other stuff I had to do in the closing down of the beta site got to me, and I just couldn't face going out and playing, which is a pity, really, because playing is one of the things that keeps me going and causes, it's good for the morale generally. But last week, a phone call at about 10:30 rather put me off the whole concept, and I bugged out for the week, which is a pity because I was looking forward to the session, and that's what anxiety does for you and mental health issues. It's all jolly fun, but this isn't about mental health. This is about the players being absolutely and utterly surprising and actually achieving things that you didn't think they were going to. But as GM, because players are strange creatures who often do some very untoward things, and if it can be said that no plan ever long survives contact with the enemy, it can also be said that no plan long survives contact with a group of player characters, especially my lovely people in the Nightmare role-playing group, who are all old lags and know all the bad habits and are not afraid to wheel them out. As I probably mentioned to you before, might have to redo that one on the grounds that I don't think it recorded properly. But I've been so busy with other computer things that I haven't gone back and rewatched it to check that, but I will do. Because I was asked to, and eventually I'll get around to doing things I'm asked to. So today, having finally got the party together, which was something of a mammoth task and only took 6 sessions, they decided that they were going to actually go and investigate the cause of the problem, which was the fact that there seemed to be some sort of strange linkage between 11th century, in 12th century Northumbria and somewhere else. They're not entirely sure where somewhere else is, but all they know is all the woods are strange. There are people there that speak languages they have no idea about. And that there is some sort of war going on there, possibly holy war, which they didn't tell me to be interested in, but they did get caught up in a little bit. As part of the encounter, one of the player that joined latest got captured by the evil people and had to escape, which they did handily a couple of sessions ago. While the other group of party who'd managed to get that bit together after only about 4 sessions of finagling, faffed around to try to get across a river at a narrow point, and there was lots of discussion about what magic they could use to make rope because they didn't have any spells for that sort of thing, and they got across the river. But while all this was happening, our other player was being dynamic and is having been captured due to being cocky, was escaping with a load of other prisoners from the bad guys' stronghold. And because the bad guys weren't actually expecting an escape, they got out without too much harm. There was a bit of a fight. They overpowered the guards they met, and they legged it into the woods. They then bumped into a screening force from the other side of the holy war, possible holy war that's going on in this other place. And because, like all good player characters, they'd looted the enemy, they were armed and they were bearing the livery of the other side. So the group that had been sent to screen the lair, so they didn't interfere with other things that were going on, involving a raid on a logging camp by the Company of the Falcon, who are the other side. Some of the Falcon people were in the woods. they saw a load of people wandering around the woods who were armed and bearing the symbols of the enemy. And when they made camp for a rest, because they'd knackered themselves out, escaping, they fell on them. Significant failures in perception caused this to be a total surprise. And the first thing anybody knew was there was a hail of arrows which badly wounded the guy holding the shield. And he was lucky that one of the arrows hit the shield, otherwise he would have been dead. And the rest of the ambush party that had got into a perfect position to ambush jumped everybody, and there was a struggle. It was a struggle that was going to end up with all of the people having their throats cut. But our escaping wizard managed to shake herself free of the people who were trying to cut her throat at the time, to be honest, because she was the enemy and it was it's that sort of war. Cast a spell, made her hair turn into that of into Medusa snakes with a fear effect, which none of her companions saw because they all had people on top of them who were trying to kill them in game. And this caused the attackers to panic and run and flee for the woods, but not without a couple of parting shots, which were some arrows from a back group of screening guards at the back who hadn't seen any of the Medusa stuff, but knew their friends were running away and were set up to give covering fire if that needed to happen. A couple of people got shot, including the wizard, and at that point they melted away into the woods. Shortly thereafter, the other group, and can you see there will be a theme here? I'll see if you can spot it. Shortly thereafter, the other group, who were proceeding through the woods from the other direction, having crossed the river finally, much faffing, they ran into a scout from the Falcon people who they had a friendly contact with and been persuaded each other that they weren't a threat. And the scout from the Falcon people, who'd been shadowing this other group, the second group of players, the main group of the party, walked up their scout, who didn't notice them, and told them, "Oh, by the way, you've got to be careful. There are some enemies in the wood, and I think somebody's got, and I think that the evil wizard is about, because there was something went off that probably magic." So this was all done in sign language and with improvised translation spells because they didn't share a common language. But basically, they were warned. And this scout slipped away to rejoin the party that were trailing the players, and discovered that. And then they bumped into the escapees and the fourth player character wizard. At which point there were some negotiations, some healing was done, all temporary healing because none of them have got any ability to permanently heal anybody, but they can. And it was decided that after that they should go ahead and scout. They went ahead, they scouted, they found this hill formation that looked like a mountain. It's not big as a mountain, it's just a big rocky outcrop with no trees on it in an area that looks like sort of Canada or the bit of America around the border. It's all trees, sea of trees. Apart from where there's rivers and a couple of areas where it's too steep for there to be that many trees growing on that slope. They then decide that they're going to have a look at this place that the new wizard has escaped from. They have a look at it, they do some magical investigations, and they discover that there is something fairly magically interesting there, which means that they actually get a bit closer. When they get closer, they see an arch, which looks like a natural stone arch, but it's studded with big bits of what look like smoky quartz. Bit the size of a head in the middle, and fist-size bits down the side. 6 of them, 3 on each side. And it looks like a gateway, but it's a gateway to nowhere. It's just an arch in the middle of a bit of meadow that's been that was probably a forest clearing to start with, and which has been expanded to allow sort of free fire zones all around it. Across the entrance through which our fourth wizard had previously escaped, we discovered that there was now a Brattis, and there were a couple of guards hiding behind pavises. Our fiery wizard managed to smoke out using a spell which would have suffocated the guards, and they legged it off inside after getting a whiff of the sulphur and unpleasantness. And while the characters played about and analysed this and discovered that it was quite magical and probably the result of a spell that hadn't quite worked properly. It had done something, but it had not worked as intended. The defenders, who are these people, and I was going to use figures like this, but I didn't need to in the end, but we'll get to that. That's a bit of a spoiler. But basically, these Black Order followers of the evil overlord. And this guy who's the cleric of the overlord, who I'm also painting up for this, I'm not going to need for a while yet, so I didn't have to rush painting them. And of course I've got some more down that are finished, barring the shields, which I need to probably do some work on. However, this guy, as you can probably see, has got a very shiny shield. Might have to, and I basically should be able to get a transfer on there flat and it not have air under it, but I haven't done it yet because I'm waiting for these to get to that point as well, because as you probably see, there's a shield bit on that arm. So that's what I'm using here, what I was going to be using, and I'll probably be doing a proper I've got a proper dungeon layout for this, which we'll be using later, I think. Basically, there was a bit of an altercation. The enemy wizard, who the model is downstairs because it's still, I photographed, it's the one with the big high black hat, and he came up and cast a spell which protected his troops from the smoke. Didn't dissipate the smoke, but basically cast a dome of fresh air type spell so they could breathe, because that's the problem with smoke. You get smoke inhalation and eventually you pass out, and you can die if you're stuck in it for too long. And he then saw one of the wizards, one of the player character wizards, investigating the arch, because he was hiding behind a shield bearer who was carrying the shield that previously had the symbol on it of their cult, but which had been doctored to make it just basically strip the paint off it, so it was just looked like glued linen on the front of it, so it was a sort of a creamy grey. And launched a missile, a spell off against them. The spell fizzled against the wizard's protection from magic, but it managed to wound the shield bearer, who was dragged from the field. Whilst this was happening, one of the more decisive wizards decided that he was going to get these lumps of what looked like smoky quartz out, because they were actually concentrated magic. That they were very concentrated magic, and it's a commodity that you use in Ars Magica for doing permanent magical things. So he brewed up an improvised spell, which basically eroded the rock around these stones, so they literally fell out. And then in the confusion told everybody to grab them and leg it. This is what they did. They grabbed everything and legged it. And eventually, after a night of not being pursued and camping in the woods, having crossed the river more easily because The new wizard had a spell which would allow them to walk on water, not, but which almost certainly resulted in a lot of the wizard getting very tired because the spell wasn't 100% reliable, and they were going to have to cast it on about 15 or 20 people. But they got across the river easily. They camped on the south side, and overnight, while they were camped, they slipped back into the world that they had come from, which was winter rather than late summer, early autumn, which the other place was. And they made their way back to the manor house and took the young noble back, and that's where we left it. But there was a load of stuff that I had planned for and prepared for them to do, including a dungeon crawl, which they didn't do. But they still exist. The plans still exist, the floor plans still exist, the notes still exist, and so does the evil wizard, who now wants revenge. Only he thinks he needs revenge against someone called Dancer, who the players are aware of because of a communication spell that he cast, basically telling Dancer to he's going to catch her and do some really unpleasant stuff to her, given the chance. And but he can't do that. He doesn't know where they've gone. It would appear that they have, at least for now, sealed the two realms, and they're safe. A couple of interesting other things was their guide, Guthrum, the forester, the chief verderer of the manor, appears to have the gift, and that at some point during the events and exposure to a higher magic environment, it triggered the event. It triggered his gift, and the players are taking him back to the Covenant to investigate that. They do know that this is a known thing, and it's called the sleeping gift, where someone it just doesn't awake. It's normally a gentle gift, so it doesn't cause any problems with anybody. Nobody's aware of it. Even the possessor isn't aware of it, and it does nothing but magical trauma and magical exposure can trigger it. In this case, the poor guy went into Wizard's Twilight, which is a thing that normally happens to very elderly wizards, where they are sort of fading from this reality. And there's lots of investigation to do that. But that's next session. And that's about it for now. I hope you enjoyed that, and I'll try and get names written down and stuff like that, but it's always very busy, and I keep asking people on the Discord server that we've got for this game names and stuff, but I forget, they forget. We're a Nightmare Player group, and I'm the GM. Thank you very much, and goodbye for now.